will be actually live. All right, now you're going live.
Okay.
So you'll have to start over because no one saw that at the beginning.
Oh, okay. Hey, everybody. We're just getting set up here. We're going to give everybody a few minutes to come in, but happy first day of spring, and I think it's going to be a fun little project. I won't hold you up from the beautiful weather. If it's beautiful where you are in Connecticut, it's a nice day today, but we should be on maybe for about an hour, and I'll show you a few different examples, and I'll go over all of this again once we're past the 1 o'clock Eastern time. So should I click into the OBS window now?
Yes, and you can make it full screen.
Okay. How's that?
Okay, great. So you're on, you're live. I'm excited for this.
Okay, that's great. We'll just give everybody time to come in, and I'm not seeing names of anybody right now because I'm on a different screen, but I think we're good to go.
I'm going to invite everybody to introduce themselves and say where they're tuning in from in the chat, and just let them know that you're monitoring the chat on your iPad.
Okay. I don't know if everybody heard that, but if you could put your name in the chat and where you're from, that would be great. And we are monitoring that, and I have Kelly monitoring questions in the chat room. So if you have questions, please type them in there, and she will make sure I see them and answer them. And you know, if I don't answer a question, or the question that you're actually asking, just ask it again, and I'll be happy to go back. But while we're waiting for people, I'll give you a little preview of what my first egg looked like. Let me just switch over. There it is. This is the first one that I did, and I'm going to show you a couple of more examples as we go along too. And I'll show you how I did the Serger chain that we'll be using today. And this one, the one that I just showed you, let me click back there. Yeah, that's got 6 sections, and I used 3 fabrics, and I mentioned that before, and I did 2 segments of each, kind of like cutting up an orange into segments. So anyway.
Look at the iPad and see how many comments have come in.
Okay. Is my volume good for everybody?
That's good.
Okay. Oh, thank you, Kelly. So.
There's so many people in the chat. Carol from Florida, Jolene from Pennsylvania.
Oh, nice.
Dan from Texas. Evelyn from California.
Is there a way that I can see that chat or no?
Yes, on the iPad, remember? Here, let me email you this live link. But if it's easier for you to click on your YouTube window that's behind OBS.
Oh, maybe.
This might be easier just to keep it on the same screen, but if you could click on that, yep, right there's good.
Oh, wow. Wisconsin, Kentucky, Pennsylvania, Florida, Washington, Maryland, New Mexico. Wow, we've got all sorts of California. Shelby, you're in Kentucky. Okay, great. How nice.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I think so. So, whoops, I just
So why don't you just use that for the chat feature instead of going back and forth from the iPad?
Okay, I didn't realize I could click back and forth. Hi, Judy. Judy is president of our Connecticut chapter for ASG. Carolyn, hi, how are you? Oh, okay, good. I'm glad Kelly was able to help you out. Oh, Elena, there's somebody from Oregon.
I know, represent.
I saw that cool thing as a little Jeopardy fact the other day for St. Patrick's Day about that teeny tiny little park that's right in Portland. What did I say? It was like 24 inches around or something?
24-inch circle called Mill End Park.
That's kind of nifty.
I know.
So, let me switch back to this window a second. Yeah, there we go.
Perfect.
Good. Yeah.
All right. So you feel good with this?
I
think I'm gonna jump off.
Okay, I think we're all set. Do you want to just give it another minute just in case?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Can they see you too, Elena?
No, they might be able to hear me, but
okay.
Just faintly in the background.
Elena was nice enough to get me going on this. I've never done a YouTube Live before, but I think we've got the hang of it pretty well. And she's in Oregon. She's out in Portland. And so she's helping me with this. And she is on her way out with a friend for the weekend. So that'll be kind of nice. And I hope the weather clears up out there for you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, okay. So let me go back and see if we have anyone else who jumped in. Denmark. Wow. Hello. Hello from the United States. Hi, Linda. You'll see me in just a second. I'll switch back to my other camera.
I think she was saying she can hear me, but she can't see me.
Oh, okay. All right. Denmark. Yay. Oh, this is so cool. This is the one good thing, or there are many good things, but oh yeah, definitely have everybody hit the like button if you're enjoying it and have anything to say, and tell your friend. This will be recorded. It'll be on my YouTube channel, so I hope you're all subscribed to that. But Ann Hill has a Bernina L890. Yes, we're not going to be doing a lot on that. I'm just going to show you how I run off the Serger chain on that, Ann. But you'll be seeing a lot of that in April on my tip clips. So, oh, Carolyn says her daughter lives in Hillsboro, Oregon, in the mountains. Do you know where that is?
Beautiful, yeah.
Yeah, nifty. Okay, the L890, I am in love with that machine. It is fabulous. So I think that's great. Now, when I'm on this screen, people, can they see me still or no?
Yes.
Oh, they can. Good, good. Okay, great. I was just a little concerned, and I know there's a little bit of lag time between oh, Sandy Garrett lives in Oregon also, yep. Judy Rouse, hi Judy, how are you? Say hi to Janie too. It's good, okay, good. I'm glad that it's just 1 o'clock here, so we'll give people another, what do you think, minute or two to jump on?
Sure.
Okay, I'll just switch back here, so. Good. All right. If some of you weren't on before, I'm going to give you a quick look at my first Easter egg that I did, and that's the same configuration that we'll be doing today. Here it is. So just like that. And I'm going to do a machine shot as well, and I'm going to have to do a little fiddling around with my cameras, but I'll keep the picture on me while I'm doing that, because I know sometimes that bothers people visually when the camera's jiggling around and doing weird stuff. So we'll do that. But that's what that's the configuration, the design for the Easter egg we'll be doing this afternoon. So let me just flip back to me. So how's everybody doing? Hope everybody's good. Happy first day of spring. Thank you for joining. Be sure to give some thumbs up or some likes if you're enjoying it. Jim and Barbara from the Cape are watching. Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's fun. So, yeah, let's just give, it's 1:02. Maybe we'll give one more minute before we get started. So, let me switch over just in case anybody missed out on this. There it is again. And here are the 3 fabrics that I chose. You'll see one of these again. I'm going to reuse this one for today. But there it is. And I just switched my bunny fabric around to a different part of the fabric. And I'll talk about that as well for this design. So this is kind of just like a fun thing just for doing different designs. And it's the same principle for people who might have seen my YouTube video right before Christmas where I did my Christmas ball. So it's the same idea, and there are so many different designs that you can do. And if any of you do any different designs on your own and you like the way they came out, just send me a photo. I'd love to post those. And that's great for everybody to see. It's just so inspirational for all of us to see. Evelyn says she's so ready for spring. Honey, you got that one right. Hi, Diane. Oh, there's Janie. Hi. Carol says spring. What a nice word. Yes. Our springs in Connecticut, honestly, I think of us as more of a 3-season state. We have a beautiful autumn, usually a pretty hot and humid summer, and winters can be long and cold, but our hi Judy Longacre, how are you? Our winters are usually pretty long and cold, and we can get snow right into April. I think we've seen a few flurries in May, but not much. So that's a good thing too. Mary Lou, hi from Colorado. Susan from Salem, Oregon. I was in Salem, a few years back. That's a nice town, nice city. All right, it's about 4 after, so let's get started. So once again, if you're just joining us, thank you so much for joining me. I'm Gail Yellen of Gail Patrice Design, and I heartily encourage you to subscribe to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Gail Yellen, and those are from my Serger tip clips. And you'll also see the recording for this go up. This is being recorded for YouTube. And I just wanted to mention a couple of different Serger projects. I have my Serger tote bag that you can download, and there are no pieces to paste together on this. It's just all of the cutting instructions and everything else. You can have a beautiful tote bag. And also, this coming week, I have Serger table runner going up. That is just hot off the presses. That'll be up and available to purchase in my store this week, and that's really fun. The whole thing is completely constructed on the Serger, so it's really kind of nice. But anyway, this is my Easter Egg-Stravaganza. And to start with, I just wanted to show you the Serger chain that I will be using. And I'm going to switch to my close-up camera and show you what the chain looks like. And let me just back up my hand here a little bit. This is using 2 wonderful 12-weight threads, and I'm going to give you the setup on the machine. There are multiple setups that you can do with this, but I think I gave those to you earlier, and I think Kelly has those also. You can use, let me go back to me. You can do a 3-thread rolled hem stitch with heavier weight 12-weight threads in your upper and lower loopers, and a coordinating color of Serger cone thread in your right overlock needle. That would be for a standard rolled hem stitch, and that kind of gives you a little bit rounder corded look. The one that I'm using today is flat, so you'll check each of your machines for what the best settings are for a rolled hem, and also depending on the weight of the threads that you're using, the stitch length can be variable. I used a stitch length of 1.0 for this, for the 212 weight threads. If you're using something a little bit heavier in the upper and lower loopers, you may want to go with a slightly longer stitch, and you'll test them just to be sure and to get the nicest look on those. But to get this flatter braid look, what I did was I kept all of my tensions on the normal or default setting. So it's not rounded the way a rolled hem would with the higher tension on your lower looper. So I'm going to just switch over to my other camera, and I'm going to show you. I'm going to move everything out of the way, and I want to show you how I just run that off. Again, all of my tensions are on a normal setting. My stitch length is 1.0, and I have 12 weight Wonderful spaghetti thread in my upper looper. That's kind of a spring green, that bright spring green that you saw on the chain, and a bright yellow in the lower looper. And I have a bright green, just all-purpose thread in my right needle. So, excuse me, let me just bring my camera over, and I'm just going to run that off, and let me just make sure. There's really nothing to it. There's no fabric. You don't have to worry about differential feed. Don't worry about your knife. None of that, because you're just strictly running off Serger Chain. So let me switch over and make sure that you are going to see what I want you to see. And again, sometimes it takes a little bit of fussing around with this. No, you can see my arm very nicely though. And so let me bring this up. Here we go. There we go. So I am just going to run off a little more of the Serger Chain just so you can see it. But there's no fabric, no nothing on that. This is a computerized machine, so that's why you hear that sound. And here we are. You can see that beautiful. It's flat. It's nice. And then what I would do after that is I would give that a press with steam. I have my stitch finger also disengaged on that. But again, because there's no fabric involved, you really don't have to bother with all the other stuff over here that I typically show when I'm doing my Serger tip clips and doing classes as well. And I took off my little extension cable on this machine because I needed a little bit more room to play around with. But again, those are two 12-weight threads, and that's your choice for thread weights and colors that will coordinate. Let me just see if I can show you. I'm not sure. Hang on. If I can show you my little computerized screen or not. Let me come up. Yep, there you go. And I can actually auto set and save my settings. And I said 12 weight Easter egg chain. And it's a 3-thread narrow seam with the stitch finger disengaged. But you can see all of the tensions are on the normal or default setting. So let me switch back to my other camera so I don't make you dizzy. And now I'm going to move my machine out of the way, and I am going to do a little bit of rearranging on my table so that I have a little more room to work with. Are there any questions so far? Let me go back and take a look in the chat and see any questions. I don't see anything so far. So if you do have any, I will be checking that out. So let me just play around with this a little bit and get myself organized. my camera up a little bit higher, just to give us a little bit more room, and flip it around a little bit. There we go. And let me just go back and see what I can see so far. Okay, good. All right, so let me show you again. This is the configuration of the egg I'll be showing you today. It's got 6 pieces, just like 6 orange slices. That's the best way I can describe it. And I gave you the dimensions for the fabric pieces to cut, and those are a little bit variable depending on how big the egg is. This one is 3 3/4 inches high, and it's a smooth styrofoam ball. But before I get into that, let me show you a couple of other designs that I did. This was the second one that I did with different fabrics. And this is a similar design to that Christmas ball that I did. And you can see it. And those are just little press-on. Actually, I glued them on, things that I can get. You can get at a craft store like Michael's, or even Joann's has a lot of this stuff now. And if you look more toward the jewelry section. And this is one that I just finished the other day, which is kind of fun with the bunnies running around the center of it. And these are little gold nail heads that I glued on as well. And you can see I have a gold thumbtack at the top, one on the bottom. And all of these little segments are separate though. I cut up the different fabric, and this is a really old fabric that I had in my stash. I bet it's at least 20 years old. And I just cut up the segments that I wanted to use. So I did that. And here I have the same flat serger chain. And again, those are 2 12-weight threads that I use. That works very nicely for this. So those are really great to use. So let's get started and talk about how we do this. I'm going to move my little stand out of the way and bring this forward. So here is the Easter egg, and I ordered these from Amazon. I think there were a dozen of them in it. So if you had friends that you wanted to get together with, you could do it. They're not expensive. But I like the smooth styrofoam only because you get a cleaner cut on it. And I think that's a good thing. The really crunchy styrofoam, I think, tends to crumble more, and you wouldn't get as clean a cut. So that's why I do tend to recommend the smooth. But you can see that there's a seam on it. So that's kind of my starting point for this, that divides the egg in half. So I have that, and then what I do next is I just take a ballpoint pen and I trace around that seam line. And I have found the fastest, easiest way to get my guidelines for the cutting are to use just 2 elastics. And I just put them on, crisscross them right at the top, and I kind of just eyeball it for the 6 parts, and I don't measure. And if one is a little bit smaller than the other, guess what? It doesn't make 1 iota of difference. Then I take my ballpoint pen and I cut right along those lines. I draw the lines first, and then I'll take my X-Acto knife, and let me just take these elastics off. I will take my X-Acto knife, and you want to be careful with these. Keep your hand out of the way. Keep your thumb out of the way of cutting. And I know I said this in the video for that Christmas ball, and just as I said it, I happened to nick myself with the X-Acto knife, and believe me, they're sharp. So that wasn't good. But anyway, so it's very easy to cut into the styrofoam, and I'll cut in maybe about 1/4 of an inch deep, and just slide it all the way around. Nothing to it really at all. Just come right around. And if you go off the line a little bit, again, it's not any tragedy. So you'll just come around, and you'll do the same thing on the other lines. Go all the way around. and I'm just kind of guessing that it's about 1/4 of an inch. So then you'll do the same thing on the other lines, and then you'll have your 6 little sort of a little ditch to tuck in your fabric. So that's the first thing that you'll do with that. And that's all the prep work there is before you start working with your fabrics. So I started this, I didn't think you'd need to see the same process 6 times. So I did 4 of these last night where I tucked in the fabric, and I left 2 to finish up on camera today. So what I'm going to do next, I like to make the fabrics go opposite of each other that are the same. Oh, and let me go back to my bunny one here for just a second, just to mention something. If you have a fabric like this that has a motif, and you want to position it so that, say, the bunny is showing up more or less on the center of that segment, you may want to cut your sections of fabric a little bit longer, and that way you can kind of move them up or down depending on where the motif is. And here's another one that I had here, and I wanted the daisies to show up on top, but I also wanted to get the bunny in. So again, if you cut it a little bit longer or wider, it gives you a little bit more space to play around with. These, I had the Serger Chain on, and I think I made my stitch a little bit longer to kind of give it almost a crochet look on this one. So you can see that it is a little more open, and I think I'm just a smidge. I'm going to just see if I can fix that focus a little bit. Hang on a second. I think that's clearer. So, again, and then I'll talk about these little glue-on embellishments as well. So I just wanted to mention that about that. This is plaid, and obviously this doesn't really have any particular motif. So let's do the batik one next. And here's my strip of fabric, my piece of fabric that's the same size as that what you wanted. And I have found that the easiest way to start is to start at the widest point of where the segment is. So I just take my little X-Acto knife, and I take it with the duller side. Yes, the ditch is about 1/4 of an inch deep. I don't measure it, but it is about 1/4 of an inch. And that gives me plenty of room to tuck in my fabric. So I start there. And then what I do is I go to the other side, the opposite side, and I kind of look for where my little ditch is. And it's better to use the opposite side of the blade. And the X-Acto knife works really well for this because it is skinny. You could use something else, but this tends to work well for me. So I'm just going to tuck in as I go. And I want to make sure I'm in the camera so that you can actually, in the camera frame, so that you can see what I'm doing. And I'm just tucking. You can see this is a highly technical, very, very advanced kind of technique. But that's what makes it fun, because it's very easy for anybody to do. I don't know that I'd be giving young kids an X-Acto knife, though, because I think that they can be kind of dangerous. And sometimes as you get to the narrower part of this, you'll find that your fabric looks a little bunchy and a little bit loose in the center. So sometimes you have to just kind of lift the fabric out just a little bit and reposition it, just to make sure that the fabric stays nice and snug against the styrofoam as you come up to the top. So I am just coming around. Let me move this back so you can actually see what I'm doing. And I actually probably should have moved the fabric up just a smidge higher, but it's no big deal because that's going to be covered with a tack anyway. You don't absolutely need to use a thumbtack, but I mentioned that if you have thumbtacks that don't really go color-wise with your fabrics. You can always buy nail polish and cover them over. You could probably even spray paint them with like a Rust-Oleum or a Krylon or something like that, and get a nice match. But nail polish now comes in every color of the rainbow. So now this is what I'm talking about how it looks a little bit loose. So I kind of maneuver it around just a little and try to get it so it stays nice and snugged up in there. And you kind of want to really push it down into that crevice just to make sure it does stay put. And I'll just pull this one down. Are there any questions at all so far? Anyone have anything they need to ask about this? Again, it's not hard, so you can see it's tucked in on top. Let's get the rest of this tucked in. And this is what I'm talking about pulling it out just a little bit, just to keep it from being loose. You want it nice and snug. So, coming down. And I think that's good. Now, what I'm going to do next is, here it is, and you can see there's plenty of excess fabric here. So we want to cut that away. And I'll pull out, I love my little Kai scissors for this. What I like to do is I like to flip this fabric over and then kind of, whoops, I want to tuck that in down here, excuse me, just a little bit better. I don't want to be short of fabric by accident here. Okay, we're good. Flip it over, and I try to cut as close to the egg surface as I can. And you'll get a little bit of a margin, and that's fine. And you can trim away that excess as you go. These little scissors, though, are really nice. They're easy to manipulate. So you can see a little bit right there, and I'll retuck this little part, no problem. And do the same thing over here. They sort of get to be addictive after a while. They're really kind of fun to make. I know that's where I was with the Christmas balls too. I started really spending quite a bit of time. I do not, somebody asked, do I use a glue to keep it in place? Nope, you don't even need to. The fabric will stay right in that little crevice all by itself. Now I just want to trim off the bottom. Get rid of that. I'll give it a little bit extra length so I'm positive I've got everything where I want it to be. Okay, so I can chuck that. Now I'm going to go back to my knife, my X-Acto, and now I can really tuck in these edges. And you will see some of the raw edges, just a tiny bit of them. Let me get in the camera a little bit better. I think I'll lighten this up just a smidge too. I think that's a little bit better. I'm going to just take the point of the X-Acto knife and really push the fabric in, but definitely you do not need to glue it. So, and I'm gonna, this is the bottom of the egg, and I'm just gonna take those ends, really just push them in. as much as you want. You don't want to leave a lot of excess fabric though, simply because you're going to need to push in the fabric for this segment as well. So you need to give it a little bit of room. We are going to use glue to put on the serger chains though. That we will use, so you'll want to do that. And I'll talk about what I like for that one. So I'm just going to keep tucking away here. Oops, my little blade is coming loose. Hang on, let me tighten it up. And again, I can't stress enough, please be careful when you're using an X-Acto knife because they are sharp. So I'm just tucking in here. And you may see a few little threads and stuff like that, but again, no big deal. So now I'm set. I've got 5 of these done. You can see from the top I've got 5. And I'm going to go and do the final one. And again, I'll start right at the widest part of the segment and just kind of tuck that in a little bit and then go to the other side. I always have to kind of look to get my landmark for where is that little crevice, and tuck it in. And it's the exact same technique and process all over again. And I'm going to just come up on the other side. And I'm looking to make sure there's no excess fabric. And I'm going to just turn it around a little bit. Sometimes it's easier to work in different directions as you go along each crevice. And my sister and her husband from Maryland are coming up here a few days before Easter. And then I think the Thursday of that week, we're headed to Cape Cod to my other sister's house. And I'm going to bring all of my fabric and styrofoam eggs and everything with me so that we can make these all together. And we have a question: should you place the fabric in every section initially, then go back and fill in the other segments? I just do one piece of fabric at a time. I just go around consecutively from to each adjacent one. I'm not quite sure if that's answering your question or not. Now you can see some extra looseness right here, so I'm going to pull out this just a little bit and kind of take my thumb and smooth this fabric out of the way. Tell me if I answered your question, because I'm not quite sure of what it was. So you can see, and I still have a little too much fabric here, so I'm going to back that up. And continue tucking. Would a purple thing work for kids? I don't know if everybody doesn't know what the purple thing is. They're these little plastic sticks that are kind of cool. I don't know if they might be a little too thick, to tell you the truth. It's a good thing to try out. There are notions that you can buy in most sewing machine stores. And I remember when those first came out, they're really kind of handy. A plastic knife might work, yes, just something skinny, but something safer than an X-Acto knife. I really, unless a child was, I don't know, maybe 13, 12 or 13, I don't know that I would go any younger than that for giving them an X-Acto knife, because they're just too dangerous. Okay, so we've got our last segment, and now I'm just going to finish doing the exact same thing. I'm just going to flip the fabric, trim it away. And you don't have to worry about cutting the fabric next to it, because that's all tucked in and snug, so you don't have to really get too worked up about that. And now I'll flip this. I'm going to cut this fabric off. There we go. Get rid of that. Flip this over. And this particular design is pretty quick to do. Once you kind of get the feel for it, it does take a little bit to get the feel for getting the fabric in and all of that, and maybe even I think selecting the fabrics is the biggest time-consuming part of this whole thing for me anyway. But anyway, and I actually have an Easter table runner using all of these fabrics, so it'll coordinate very nicely on my table. So now I'm going to go back to this. Even my scissors are the blade is a little bit too thick. So I'm going to go back. Let me lower my exposure a little bit. I'm getting a little bit of shine on that. Oh, that's much better. Sorry about that. I didn't have that before. There we go. Much better? I think it is. We're good on this. And again, my knife blade is getting loose. Let me tighten that. And you can be kind of energetic and enthusiastic about pushing these in. You don't have to worry. You're not going to hurt the styrofoam egg, and it's not going to make any weird divots or anything else in it. So don't get concerned about that. Get all of this fabric tucked. And again, if you see teeny tiny bits of the fabric peeking out, the serger chain is going to hide that. So it's almost the same idea when you put the serger chain on these little crevices. It's almost the same idea as if you had fabric that was kind of ravelly and it looks sort of messy on the edges, and then you run it through your overlock, and suddenly it's as clean as a whistle and all covered up with your nice stitching. Same idea with the serger chain when you apply it to this. So, and we're almost ready for that step. So let me just get these tucked in just a little bit more, okay? And I think we're good. Let me just, okay. Good. So we've got all 6 of our sections all squared away. So now we are ready to put on the serger chain next. And that's going to go right along each little crevice that we created. So I like to use gem tack. A woman that I know who shows horses does these amazing shirts for different people. She does them on commission. And she does all kinds of Swarovski crystals all over. They must weigh a ton. And she uses gem tack, and she said she's never had a crystal fall off. Now, obviously, this is not going to get the wear and tear that a shirt does that for somebody who's showing their horses, but it does keep everything the way it should be on there. So let me move all of this stuff aside. Now, I do not recommend pouring it on like this because you just run the risk of it globbing out and getting all over the fabric itself and staining it. So I like to pour it out onto something like a piece of paper, and I think I'll put a little plastic underneath that because I don't want it soaking through onto the fabric underneath here. So I'm going to just take a little, I'm going to take the cap off of this and pour it out. And I'll show you my very fancy applicator that I use, but I'll tell you why it works pretty well. Okay, I think that's enough. I'll put that, and then we'll put my cap on so we don't have any little tragic accidents. Do we have any more questions as we go along? Okay, so we're ready. Now, what I like to do, I take this little crochet hook, and who knows where it came from. I have no idea whatsoever. But I like to take it because it's thin, and I will apply the glue right along the crevice. And I always like to start at the bottom of the Easter egg. And make sure your glue is out of the way so you don't accidentally dip your Easter egg into it, which I have done on previous occasions. And I just see a few little tidbits of fabric that I want to get tucked in here. Okay, good. All right. So what I'm going to do is I just take this because it's skinny, and so you can use anything you want, and I just kind of drag the tip along each crevice, moving along. And again, I'm starting at the bottom of the egg itself. I'm just making sure I'm in the camera. And the other thing that I like about this is that when it dries, you can't see it at all, which is kind of another good thing. So I'll go up to the top on the first side, and then I think we're ready to apply this. So I'm going to take my serger chain, and I have already pressed this. I did this off camera because I didn't think you need to see that. Let me just lighten this up just a smidge. Okay. All right, so I'm starting at the bottom, and you're just going to use the raw edge, and that's going to be covered at the end. Now, I want the bright green side to show, depending on whether you use two different colors or not. Let me just show you that real quick. I had the yellow in the lower looper, so that side looks more yellow, and the green in the upper looper. I want the green side to show. So I'm just going to take that and tap it into place with my finger, just like that. And you're just going to kind of run it along that little crease or ditch on the egg. Press it just so that the glue grabs it. And look how pretty that is. And again, it covers up any of the fabric raw edge that might be peeking out. And then I just kind of move it aside, and I'm going to apply that glue to the other half. Now let me lighten this up again. Let me lower it. I think I went a little too far. Okay. I'm just going to bring that along the other edge. And by using something skinny, you know, a toothpick would work fine too for this. That would be perfect. That way you make sure you don't get any globs of glue on the fabric where it's going to maybe stain. It takes a minute longer, but it's worth it. And I'm not going to show you all 6 sides, but I'll with this, but it's the exact same process as you go along, because I want to show you how to do the little embellishments too. And these are fun little presents to make for people too. They're cute for kids, they're nice for adults, and you can make them as fancy and dressy or just kind of country looking, depending on the type of fabric that you're using. I was even thinking about doing one with all nice little boutique fabrics that I thought would be kind of like that boho chic look on Easter eggs. Okay, so I am ready to continue along on the next side with my serger chain. And you don't want to stretch it either. Just lay it down, give it a pat with your fingers as you go along. Lay it down flat. And then you're going to come around to the bottom, to the other edge, and then I just cut it and snip it to that finished part, and I'll take the other end of my crochet hook and kind of just dab it in. And again, these raw edges of the serger chain will all be covered up. Where am I? Okay, there we are. Okay. You can see these will all be covered up with that thumbtack. So just get it nice and smooth. You can see it looks really nice, and it gives it a really finished look going around each little segment. Going around, so it's really super easy. Then I would just continue on the other 2 sides, and you'll just crisscross over the top of that, just finishing it up, and then go across the other side as well. And then you're ready to do some embellishing. And let me just show you. I decided that for this one, I kind of like these same little flat-sided doodads, for lack of a better word, that I use on these. They kind of have a pearly type of surface on them that's kind of pretty, but they look nice with these fabrics. But you saw big pearls on this one. One thing I want to mention about this, these have these little sticky pads on the bottom side, which is flat. And I tried sticking them on just to see how well they stay put without gluing them. Well, when I pick this up, if my hand happens to go over one of these, quite frequently it'll pull right off onto my hand. So I take off those little sticky pads on the bottom and again use my gem tack to really glue them on. And that's what I did with the bigger ones and these as well. So it just depends. If you have hot fix crystals, those will work well also. That's great. These particular ones that I'm going to be using today don't have those little sticky pads, so it's no big deal. So here's our egg, and I guess I'll start right up, and how far away you want each one is really up to you. I just put a little dab of glue. You don't want to do too much, but you want to do enough to make it stick. Yeah, maybe about 3/4 of an inch apart. And again, I don't measure. If you want to be really precise, you certainly can be, but, and you don't have to do each one individually. I just do a few at a time, and the glue stays wet enough that it'll still stick. Just like that. Do that a little bit more. A little bit more. And I don't think I'll go toward that bottom edge, only because I want it to be able to stand up. I may change my mind on that. Then I just take my tweezers, grab my little stick-ons, get them right over the glue, and then I give them a firm finger press. So you can see that that's pretty easy as well. And again, if you go into, say, like a Michael's or Joann's or one of those places, they have tons of these things. They have crystals, they have this kind of pearly type of look. They've got all sorts of things, so it's really a matter of what you want. You could also use beads, which I've got a lot of, but I decided since I have a ton of these, I might as well use them. So just like this. But you can see, even up close, it's nice and neat. I've got one more to do on this line. Sometimes it's harder to flip these things over. And every once in a while, some of these will have like a little malformed edge on it. So I try to kind of pick and choose which ones I'm putting on it just to make sure they look nice. Just like that as I go along. So easy peasy. I would go around the other side. Now after I get all of my serger chains on, what I would do next, and I'll just show you quickly, once they're all applied and on, I've got little pink, thumbtacks, nothing fancy, and I'm just going to go through the center on the top just like that, and I may do one of those little pearls around. You can see on my original one that I went around, let me get that in there, there you go. So I did 6 of them around the thumbtack itself, and it looks kind of cute. I did not do anything to the thumbtack on the bottom. I just left it plain so that it can stand up. But that's basically the way the whole process works. It's really pretty quick and easy once you kind of get into the swing of doing it. It took me a while to get everything squared away the way I wanted it to be. Somebody said, how long does gem tack stay tacky? To be perfectly honest, I would say I don't think I'd leave it for more than a minute or so. And it might stay tacky longer than that, quite honestly, but since this is such a quick, easy little project, I'm still using the same one. I've got it on my paper right here, and I'm dipping my little crochet hook tip into that. And this is still wet, but it's kind of a good sized glob. So this stays tacky for and malleable for a while. So you don't really have to worry about that. But it certainly stays tacky long enough to do all of your glue dots at once. It's much more efficient to do it like that. But that's a great question. And if you start to get too big a glob where it's going to start getting messy, just wipe off that tip. I think that's down where I was on the other one, okay? So go back to my little tweezers. Tap it in just like that. And if you see any little threads like that, you can go back after you're all done and just clean those up. That's you can just snip those afterwards. You dump out a few more. I'm going to move this glue out of the way. Hang on just a second. I'm going to put this so you can see it in the meantime. I need a few more of my little pearls. Just like that. Sometimes flipping these over to go the right way is harder than anything else. And another nice thing I mentioned that the gem tack dries so that you don't see it, but if you did overdo it in a spot, that's a good thing to know, because some of the glues can really kind of stain the fabric, and the gem tack really seems to work pretty well. So that's essentially it. I'm not going to make you watch me do all of these, but I'll post a picture as soon as this is all done off camera. But that is the idea for the Easter egg. So let me put that right on a little stand for you to see. Just like that. And let me move my glue out of the way so I don't get that on anything. Just here we are. So super easy to do, and it's a great scrap buster too, so you don't have to go and buy all new fabrics. I'm just going to switch my camera over. There we are. Okay. Do we have any more questions in the chat box, Kelly, at all? Anything going on? Is everybody good for that? Does anyone have any questions about anything else about the settings on the serger for the serger chain, about the threads that you can use for that? I would definitely go, I wouldn't use serger cone thread for all three of the threads. I think it's very fine, and I don't think it would be the greatest look, quite honestly. I really do like the decorative thread, the heavier weight thread, 12 weight. If you want to go down to 8 weight, that will give you a chunkier, beefier thread chain. So I think that's really about it. I mean, did you get the stand online? To tell you the truth, I haven't got the vaguest idea of where this little stand came from. I think it came with another egg that somebody had sent as just a little decorative thing, and but it worked for this. I'll bet you could find them online, but again, I think you could probably find them even in some of the local craft stores if you look around. But they're kind of fun to do, and I hope you enjoyed it. So it's kind of nifty. If there are any more questions about anything, oh, the serger, could you use pearl crown rayon or pearl cotton? Yes, definitely you could. Pearl crown rayon is an 8-weight thread. That's a thicker, heavier thread, so you would need to lengthen your stitch. And just like anything, when you take a serger class from me, you always hear me talk about making samples, and you're definitely going to have to allow enough time for yourself to make some samples. But you'll probably, if you use 2 8-weight threads, you might even need to bring your stitch length up to from 2 even between 2 and 2.5 to get a good chain. And you'll want to give it a good press afterwards too. It comes off looking pretty nice from the machine, but sometimes it can be a little bit kinked or curly. So by giving it that press beforehand with some steam, it smooths out and makes the stitches look nice and uniform. I'm just looking to see if are there any other questions? Pearl cotton would work as well. Yes, definitely. And this thread is a 12-weight cotton. So it's an Egyptian cotton. And I like it because it's very lint-free. It's a really nice quality for that. So, but there are lots of nice threads on the market that you can use for that instead. Any other questions? It's just about an hour, but I thank you all for joining me today. And again, be on the lookout this coming week for my new pattern, my Serger Table Runner. Let me show you that. And I'll post a picture of the Easter egg one because I think it came out really cute. But that'll be out in my store this week. Excuse me. And again, my Serger tote bag, if you're looking for fun little projects to do, that's it. This is using 3-thread flat lock on this side, and then I did a 2-thread reverse flat lock for the beautiful chevron and weaving ribbons through that. So that's kind of a fun thing as well. But definitely, please subscribe. And if you have any questions after this while you're doing your Easter egg, just shoot them to me, and I will be very happy to get back to you quickly with an answer. So I just want to check to make sure there are no more questions before we sign off. Are we all good? Okay, well, I hope you all have a great weekend. Have a really nice Easter. Please stay safe and well. Wear a mask when you go out, or two. And I'm looking forward to, hopefully, a little bit later on this year, doing some in-person events around the country. So I think as people are getting vaccinated and really being careful with themselves and with each other, that we will be able to get back to in-person events, and that's going to be a wonderful thing. I think having all of these online tools to work with and keep us all busy at home has been great, but there's nothing like seeing people face to face and being able to see what they're working on in real time all together. So I thank you all very much. And again, if you couldn't stay for the whole thing today, it will be recorded, and or if you don't have all your materials ready, that's fine too. It'll be recorded and you'll see it on my YouTube channel. So again, stay